We're also fortunate to have Dr. Holst with us today. Dr. Holst was appointed Victoria's first Commissioner for Residential Tenancies in 2018. She's worked in homelessness, social and affordable housing across service delivery, organisational management, policy development and research since late 1980s. Dr. Holst is a strong champion for the rights of Victorian renters, including residents of rooming houses, caravan parks and residential parks. She served as Deputy CEO at Launching House and as the Chief Executive Officer for Homeground. Having worked across Melbourne and regional Victoria in a wide range of roles and community organisations, Dr. Holst has designed and operated a range of housing projects, support programs and rough sleeping solutions. Dr. Holst has agreed to provide an overview of her role as Commissioner and her insights into the issues raised in our report. So it's with great pleasure that I ask Dr. Holst to turn on her mic and camera and join us.
Thank you, Melissa. And thank you everybody for your interest in this extremely important topic. Let me start with my acknowledgement that I'm speaking to you from Dja Dja Wurrung country today, and to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to also say how warmly I appreciated Auntie Georgina Nicholson's welcome this morning. So a little more, first of all, about the Commissioner role. You've heard from our Minister, Minister Melissa Horne, and that was an absolutely terrific reception, I think, for this important report. My role as Commissioner is to work principally with Minister Horne, actually, but also with all relevant areas of the Victorian Government to provide a conduit for Victorian renters to have a seat at the table. It was recognised that renters in Victoria don't have adequate voice into the sort of decisions that so affect their lives, and that's why this Commissioner role was created. I take that responsibility extremely seriously. Sometimes it actually weighs pretty heavily, particularly when I see things not going as fast or as well as I would like them to. And I would have to say that in the area of international students, that is sometimes the thought. We still have upwards of 90,000 international students onshore at the moment, as best we can tell. But I think that Caitlin, in her excellent presentation, her excellent report, gave an indication of, and as did Minister Horne actually, how many are usually here. They make up many of the renters, particularly in certain areas of Melbourne, but in other parts of Victoria too. You may think that many are in student housing, but normally before COVID, only around 11% were in designated student housing. So even the ones who aren't approaching places like WEstjustice, Tenants Victoria and the other services who are available are, making their best of it in some pretty tenuous rental circumstances, which is why I am particularly interested and concerned in the wellbeing of international student renters in Victoria. It was a surprise to me, the numbers involved and the precarity of many of the living conditions. It's a very various group is what I've discovered as well. There are some young people who come from quite well-to-do families who've got the backing of those families. There are many others who really everyone's scrimped and safe to get them here. They not only have very little money, but they have very high hopes riding on their shoulders. So that situation, I think, calls for us as a Victorian community who are receiving these young people to do our best to offer them a fair arrangement in their housing, and also, to be welcome in as many ways as possible. I really want to commend WEstjustice for the work that they have commenced, continue and will keep doing in this area. I also want to acknowledge the Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation's role. They have funded this project, but The Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation does a little more than that. They also keep a very close eye on matters of housing and homelessness, and have really fulfilled their remit, I think, of using their resources to assist groups to do their best with these sort of issues, and I want to recognise that. I'm sort of finding out more about international students. I've worked fairly closely with Study Melbourne, who are really an excellent group who do a lot of work with the international students before they're here, during, and in developing those links with overseas and with the institutions where the students study. And that's where I've got in touch, I suppose, with a lot of the international students and the issues that they face. I think it's been fairly well laid out today that there is a difference between the rights that you might have in law on the statute book and your ability to actually exercise those rights. Let me just emphasise that again, that I believe that international students are behind the 8 ball more than most types of renters when it comes to that. Many of them, I'm told, get their accommodation arranged before they arrive, sometimes through people who purport to be on their side, in their language group, even in their community of origin, who are not actually acting in their best interest, or actually acting in quite an exploitative way, and misrepresenting, as Caitlin identified, some of their rights and entitlements in this country. So there are some very particular extra challenges that international students face, and I hear and value the call and clear laying out of the issues that WEstjustice have presented us here in this report. These sort of reports greatly assist the representational type of work I can do into different areas of policy making. And I thank you for that, and I will use this report in that manner. It provides a clear and current picture of the issues. I just want to note 2 particular ones. International students are caught up in a kind of a cutting edge style of emerging rooming house provision that wasn't really contemplated when the Act and the regulations were made in the late 2000s for rooming houses. Most of the rooming houses that the international students live in are actually very hard to see. They're in high-rise apartment buildings in many cases, not all, that are actually very hard to detect and inspect by the local councils. The reporting is sort of harder to do as well, and the evidence that can be gathered in order to achieve compliance in those settings is more tricky, which is well explained in the report as well. I also concur that the problems of co-tenancy are not very well covered by our current law, and that kind of reinforces a view that I have, I guess, that we need to be working out how to do more in that area as well, to provide better protections to people who there are very many co-tenancies, of course, but when they've got the extra addition of international students with, generally speaking, lower knowledge about their rights and entitlements and the ways of the host city, then even more are we called upon, I think, to think of new ways that we can make those arrangements as acceptable and fair as possible. So I want to just conclude my remarks there, but to thank again this really excellent work that WEstjustice have done. I also am very pleased to see their role in coordinating the network of other professionals who work into this area of housing law with international students. And I look forward to continuing what is already a very strong working relationship with WEstjustice and their partners. So thank you very much, everybody. And back to you, Melissa.
Thank you, Dr. Holst. It's always a pleasure to hear about these issues from your perspective, and we're fortunate to have a commissioner such as yourself with a deep understanding of the problems and a preparedness to do the heavy lifting with the community legal sector to find workable solutions.